They declared war on Earth and got laughter. In response, Part 1. The arrogant arrival commander Zelthax stood at the observation deck of the Krylon warship Eternal Dominion, his crimson scales gleaming under the artificial lighting of the command bridge. His species, the Krylon, had evolved on a harsh desert world where only the strongest survived, and that philosophy had shaped their entire civilization. For 3 centuries they had expanded across the galaxy, bringing 217 worlds under their dominion through a combination of military might and ruthless efficiency. Earth was to be world number 218. The blue and green planet rotated peacefully on the main viewing screen, completely unaware of the 12 massive warships that had just entered its solar system. Zelthax's vertical pupils contracted as he studied the world that intelligence reports had described as fragmented, primitive, and utterly defenseless. Perfect prey for the Krylon Empire, Strategic Officer Vorna approached from her station, carrying a data crystal that contained the complete intelligence assessment of Earth. She was smaller than most Krylon, with darker scales that marked her as coming from the northern territories of their homeworld. Her analytical mind had served Zelthax well in 43 previous conquests, and he trusted her assessments completely. "Commander, the final analysis is complete," Vorna said, her voice carrying the characteristic hiss that all Krylon possessed. "The dominant species calls themselves humans. They have achieved nuclear capability and basic spaceflight, but their technology is at least 5 centuries behind our own. Their planet is divided into nearly 200 separate nations, each with its own military and government. There is no unified planetary defense system." Zelthax's mouth curved into what his species considered a smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth designed for tearing meat. "Divided and primitive, the Emperor will be pleased with how quickly we can incorporate this world into the Empire. What about their military capabilities?" Vorna consulted her data crystal, her clawed fingers dancing across its surface to pull up relevant information. "Their most advanced weapons are thermonuclear missiles with yields measured in megatons. Our shields can withstand impacts 50 times more powerful without strain. Their space-based assets consist of a few satellites and a small station orbiting their planet with a crew of less than 10 individuals. They have sent primitive probes to their neighboring planets but have not established any permanent off-world colonies." The commander turned to face his bridge crew, all of whom wore the proud crimson and black uniforms of the Krylon Imperial Fleet. "Officers, we stand on the threshold of another glorious victory for the Empire. This conquest will be remembered as one of the easiest in our history. A divided species with no unified defense, wielding technology that poses no threat to even our smallest vessel." Pilot Krenix, the youngest member of the bridge crew, shifted uncomfortably at his station. His scales still carried the brighter hue of youth, and he had only participated in 3 previous conquests. Something about the mission troubled him, though he could not articulate exactly what. "Commander, if I may speak?" Zelthax turned his penetrating gaze toward the young pilot. "Speak freely, Krenix. Your thoughts may prove valuable." "Sir, I have been reviewing the cultural database we compiled on the humans. Their history is filled with conflicts among themselves, yet they possess a strange pattern of unifying when faced with external threats. They also have extensive fictional narratives about encounters with alien species, most of which involve resistance and eventual victory. Should we not be concerned that they have psychologically prepared for this scenario?" Strategic Officer Vorna made a dismissive gesture with her clawed hand. "Fiction and reality are vastly different things, pilot. Their entertainment fantasies mean nothing when faced with actual superior force. Besides, their divisions run deep. Economic interests, religious differences, territorial disputes, all of these will prevent any meaningful unified response. History shows that primitive civilizations always fracture under pressure." Zelthax nodded in agreement. "Well observed, Vorna. Pilot Krenix, your caution is noted, but remember that we have conquered worlds far more advanced than this one. The humans may have imagined alien contact in their stories, but imagination cannot defeat plasma cannons and quantum shields." He turned back to the main screen. "Communications Officer Thex, prepare to broadcast our standard conquest ultimatum on all human frequencies. Let us introduce ourselves to our newest subjects." Communications Officer Thex, a veteran of more than 60 conquests, activated the translation matrix that would convert Zelthax's words into all major human languages simultaneously. "Ready to broadcast on all channels, Commander." We will reach every communication device on the planet. Zelthak straightened to his full height of nearly 8 feet, his ceremonial armor gleaming with medals from previous campaigns. The recording system activated, and he addressed the unseen billions of humans with the same speech he had given to countless other worlds. Inhabitants of the planet you call Earth, I am Commander Zelthax of the Krylon Imperial Armada. Your world has been selected for incorporation into the glorious Krylon Empire, which spans 73 star systems and has endured for 3,000 years. Your primitive technology, your divided governments, and your limited resources will now serve the greater glory of Emperor Dravok the Conqueror, 9th of his name, master of 217 worlds. He paused for dramatic effect, a technique that had proven effective in breaking the spirit of resistance on other worlds. You have no defense against our might. Your weapons cannot harm our vessels. Your divisions make unified resistance impossible. We offer you a simple choice. Surrender immediately and become productive citizens of the Empire, or resist and face complete annihilation. You have 48 of your Earth hours to respond with your unconditional surrender. Transmit your acceptance on this same frequency. Choose wisely, for the Krylon Empire does not offer mercy to those who resist. The transmission ended, and Zelthax returned to his command chair with satisfaction. Now we wait for the inevitable surrender. Officer Vorna, begin preparations for establishing a governing structure. We will need to identify which human leaders are most suitable for collaboration. Vorna bowed her head in acknowledgement. At once, Commander. Based on economic and military power, I recommend we focus on the nations they call China, the United States, Russia, and the European Union. These 4 power blocks control most of the planet's resources and population. Pilot Krenix returned to monitoring the Eternal Dominion systems. Though his unease had not diminished, something about the humans bothered him. Some intangible quality in their cultural database that suggested they might not react as predicted. But he was young and inexperienced, and clearly his superiors knew better. They had conquered more than 200 worlds using exactly this approach. The Krylon Armada settled into a standard blockade formation around Earth, their weapons powered but not yet targeted. 12 massive warships, each carrying enough firepower to devastate a continent, hung in space like predators waiting for wounded prey to accept its fate. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Commander Zelthax reviewed reports from his fleet commanders, all of whom confirmed that their vessels were ready for either peaceful occupation or violent subjugation. 48 hours. That was all the time humanity had to make the most important decision in its history: surrender and live as subjects of the Krylon Empire, or resist and face destruction from an enemy whose technology they could not match and whose military experience dwarfed their own. To Commander Zelthax and his crew, the choice seemed obvious. No rational species would choose annihilation over survival, but then again, the Krylon had never encountered humanity before. They had never faced a species that had spent thousands of years fighting itself, learning from every conflict, and developing a peculiar sense of humor about its own mortality. They had never met a civilization that had imagined this exact scenario in countless stories, movies, and books, preparing itself psychologically for the moment when the stars would no longer be empty. The countdown began, and Earth fell silent as billions of humans received the message that they were no longer alone in the universe, and that their new neighbors had come not in peace but in conquest. The Krylon waited for surrender. They did not wait for laughter. The unexpected response. The bridge of the Eternal Dominion maintained an atmosphere of relaxed confidence as the 48-hour deadline approached its conclusion. Commander Zelthax had retired to his quarters for a brief rest period, certain that he would awaken to messages of capitulation from dozens of human governments, all scrambling to be the first to pledge loyalty to the Krylon Empire. It was always the same pattern: initial shock, frantic internal debates, and then the inevitable acceptance of superior force. Strategic Officer Vorna had spent the waiting period monitoring human communications, and what she observed both puzzled and intrigued her. Rather than the expected panic and chaos, human global networks had exploded with activity of a different nature entirely. Their information systems, which they called the Internet, had become flooded with something called memes. These appeared to be humorous images and videos that mocked the Krylon threat in ways that seemed almost incomprehensible to her analytical mind. When Commander Zelthax returned to the bridge, Vorna presented her findings with obvious confusion. Commander, the human response is highly unusual. Rather than preparing for surrender or mounting a defense, they appear to be engaging in mass mockery of our ultimatum. I do not understand the strategic purpose of this behavior. Zelthax examined the data streams that Vorna had compiled. Images of Krylon warships with absurd captions in human languages, videos comparing his recorded ultimatum to scenes from their fictional entertainment, and endless variations of laughter and dismissive comments filled every human communication channel. One particularly popular image showed his face during the ultimatum, with text that translated to, "When you order your alien invasion from a discount website." This is their fear response, Zelthax declared, though uncertainty crept into his voice. They are using humor to mask their terror. It is a psychological defense mechanism. Ignore it and wait for their official government responses. Pilot Krenix, monitoring the communication frequencies, suddenly straightened at his station. "Commander, we are receiving a unified transmission from Earth. It appears to be an official response, broadcast from their United Nations headquarters and simultaneously transmitted by all major human governments." "Excellent," Zelthax said, settling into his command chair. "Put it on the main screen. Let us receive their surrender with appropriate dignity." The viewing screen flickered to life, and instead of a single leader or diplomat, it showed a split screen of dozens of locations across Earth. Government chambers, military headquarters, university campuses, public squares, and broadcast studios all appeared simultaneously, and from every location came the same sound: laughter. Humans were laughing. Not nervous, fearful laughter, but genuine, hearty amusement. Government officials in formal attire struggled to maintain composure as they chuckled. Military officers in dress uniforms grinned broadly. Scientists and academics wiped tears of mirth from their eyes. Citizens gathered in public spaces around viewing screens howled with delight. The collective sound of billions of humans finding the Krylon ultimatum hilarious filled the bridge of the Eternal Dominion. Commander Zelthax stared in absolute bewilderment. In 43 previous conquests, spanning 4 decades of military service, he had never witnessed such a response. Fear, anger, defiance, even resignation, but never mockery, never laughter. A human figure stepped forward in the central panel of the transmission. She was a woman of middle years with dark skin and gray-streaked hair pulled back in a practical style. She wore a simple blue suit and carried herself with calm authority. "Commander Zelthax of the Krylon Empire, I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. On behalf of humanity, I must thank you for the most entertaining 48 hours we have had in quite some time." Zelthax's scales rippled with confusion and rising anger. "You dare mock the Krylon Empire? You laugh at your own destruction?" Admiral Chen's smile remained gentle, but her eyes held something harder. "Oh, Commander, we are not laughing at our destruction. We are laughing at you. You see, humanity has been imagining this scenario for over 200 years. Hostile aliens arriving to conquer Earth is quite literally one of our oldest and most popular story tropes. We have written thousands of books about it, produced hundreds of films, and created countless television series exploring every variation of this theme." She gestured, and the screen split again to show clips from human fiction, massive alien warships, threatening ultimatums, and each time, humanity finding a way to prevail. "We have imagined you, Commander. We have imagined beings far more terrifying, far more powerful, and far more creative in their threats than you have proven to be. Your ultimatum sounded like it was copied directly from a script written by our most unimaginative storytellers." Strategic Officer Vorna frantically checked her data streams. "Commander, the humans have created a compilation document comparing your ultimatum speech to over 50 examples from their fictional media. The similarities are statistically significant. They are suggesting you lack originality." Pilot Krenix made a sound that might have been a suppressed laugh but quickly converted it into a cough when Zelthax glared at him. Admiral Chen continued, her tone remaining conversational. "Furthermore, Commander, your intelligence assessment of Earth was rather poor. Yes, we have nearly 200 nations. Yes, we have internal conflicts and disagreements. But you have made the classic mistake that so many of our fictional alien invaders make, assuming that our divisions make us weak." She clasped her hands behind her back, and her expression grew more serious. "Let me educate you about humanity, Commander. We are tribal by nature. We argue among ourselves constantly. We compete, we disagree, we maintain different cultures and philosophies. But there is one thing that unifies humans faster than anything else in the universe: an external threat. The moment you appeared in our solar system with hostile intent, you accomplished something our diplomats have been working toward for decades. You united Earth. The screen shifted to show images from across the planet. Massive crowds gathering in cities, military forces from different nations coordinating movements, and leaders who had been political rivals days ago, now working side by side in command centers. The divisions that the Krylon had counted on had evaporated the moment humanity confirmed they were not alone, and that the visitors were hostile. Zelthax found his voice, though it carried less confidence than before. Unity means nothing against superior technology. Your weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Your spacecraft cannot match our speed. Your entire planetary military could not destroy even one of our vessels. That is an interesting assumption. Commander, Admiral Chen replied, and now her smile carried a predatory quality that made even Zelthax uncomfortable. Tell me, did your intelligence gathering include a thorough survey of our moon? Strategic Officer Vorna immediately began running new scans, and her scales paled to a lighter shade of crimson. Commander, I am detecting massive energy signatures on the Earth's moon. They were not there in our initial scans, or rather they were hidden somehow. I am reading weapons platforms, defensive installations, and power generation facilities that rival our own technology. Check Mars, Admiral Chen suggested helpfully. And while you are at it, take a closer look at Earth's oceans. We are quite good at hiding things underwater. Pilot Krenix's console erupted with alerts as new sensor data poured in. Commander, she is correct. I'm detecting submerged installations across all of Earth's major oceans. The energy signatures are enormous. And Mars, sir, there is an entire base on Mars that was completely invisible to our scans until now. But how? Zelthax demanded, his confidence crumbling. Our intelligence showed a primitive species barely capable of orbital flight. Admiral Chen's expression became almost sympathetic. Commander, let me share something about human nature. We are paranoid. We are creative. And we are very, very good at deception when survival is at stake. About 400 years ago, Earth encountered its first hostile extraterrestrial species. They were scouts far less organized than your empire. But they taught us a valuable lesson. The galaxy is not safe, and appearing weak is sometimes the best defense. She walked slowly across her command center, and the camera followed her. Since that first encounter, humanity has maintained a careful deception. To anyone scanning our system, we appear primitive, divided, and vulnerable. We broadcast our internal conflicts, we showcase our technological limitations, and we present ourselves as easy prey. Meanwhile, we have been preparing, building, advancing, waiting. This is impossible, Vorna whispered, but her scans confirmed everything the human admiral claimed. Hidden installations across Earth's solar system were now revealing themselves, each one representing technology that matched or exceeded Krylon capabilities. Admiral Chen stopped walking and faced the camera directly. You are not the first hostile force to threaten Earth, Commander Zelthax, and unless you make a very wise decision in the next few minutes, you will suffer the same fate as those who came before you and thought humanity would be an easy conquest. Her voice hardened. We are not primitive. We are not defenseless. And we are certainly not amused by threats of annihilation. What we are, Commander, is giving you one chance to leave our solar system peacefully. The main screen split once more, and Zelthax saw something that turned his blood cold. Detailed schematics of Krylon warship designs appeared, including classified information about shield frequencies, weapon systems, and structural weaknesses. Information that should have been impossible for humans to obtain. How did you acquire Imperial classified data? Zelthax roared, his composure finally breaking completely. We are very good at intelligence gathering, Commander, Admiral Chen replied calmly. Just as we are very good at many other things you assumed were beyond our capabilities. Now you have a choice to make, and I strongly suggest you choose wisely. You can retreat peacefully, return to your empire, and report that Earth is not the easy target your intelligence suggested. Or you can initiate hostilities and discover exactly how unpleasant humanity can be when genuinely threatened. Strategic Officer Vorna leaned close to Zelthax and whispered urgently. Commander, our tactical analysis indicates that engagement would be extremely costly, possibly catastrophic. The humans have neutralized our technological advantage. They know our weaknesses, and they have hidden capabilities we still cannot fully assess. Pilot Krenix added softly, "Sir, they allowed us to enter their solar system. They could have prevented our arrival entirely, but chose to let us come close enough to deliver our ultimatum. This was not carelessness. This was strategy. They wanted to see our intentions before revealing their true capabilities." Commander Zelthax felt the weight of 217 successful conquests pressing down on him, and the crushing realization that Earth would not be number 218. Pride warred with survival instinct, and for the first time in his military career, survival won. "Admiral Chen," he said, his voice carefully controlled, "it appears our intelligence was flawed. The Krylon Empire does not continue operations based on incorrect information. We will withdraw from your solar system." "A wise choice, Commander," Admiral Chen replied, and her smile returned, warmer now. "Before you go, I am transmitting coordinates for a neutral meeting station in a neighboring system. Should your empire wish to establish diplomatic relations rather than hostile ones, we would be happy to discuss trade, cultural exchange, and mutual cooperation. Humanity prefers friends to enemies, Commander Zelthax. We are quite good at friendship when given the chance." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the Eternal Dominion in shocked silence. Commander Zelthax stared at the blue-green planet that had just humiliated the mighty Krylon Empire without firing a single shot. They had used laughter as a weapon, revealing humanity's confidence. They had used deception as a shield, hiding their true capabilities until the perfect moment, and they had used mercy as a demonstration of strength, offering friendship after being threatened with annihilation. "Set course away from Earth," Zelthax ordered quietly. "Maximum velocity, and someone begin preparing my report to the Emperor. This will be a very difficult message to compose." As the Krylon Armada retreated from humanity's solar system, every member of the crew understood they had encountered something unprecedented. A species that had turned the art of appearing weak into a strategic advantage, that unified in the face of external threats despite internal divisions, and that met arrogant threats not with fear but with laughter. Earth had won without fighting, and somehow that made humanity more terrifying than any enemy the Krylon had ever faced. The humbling truth. The journey back to Krylon space was the longest 2 weeks of Commander Zelthax's life. The Eternal Dominion, which had departed for Earth with such confidence, now limped home in disgrace. The other 11 warships of the Armada followed in silent formation, their crews processing the impossible. They had been defeated without a single shot fired, humiliated by a species they had dismissed as primitive prey. Zelthax spent most of the voyage in his quarters, reviewing the encounter repeatedly and trying to compose a report that would explain the inexplicable to Emperor Dravok. How could he describe the sound of billions of humans laughing at his ultimatum? How could he convey the shock of watching Earth's hidden defenses reveal themselves? How could he admit that his 43 previous conquests had made him overconfident and blind to possibilities he should have considered? Strategic Officer Vorna had worked tirelessly throughout the journey, analyzing every piece of data they had gathered about Earth. She had requested permission to enter Zelthax's quarters on the final day before reaching the Krylon homeworld, and he had granted it despite his desire for solitude. "Commander, you need to see this," Vorna said without preamble, activating a holographic display between them. "I have spent the past 2 weeks studying everything we know about humanity, and I have discovered something deeply troubling." Zelthax looked up from his half-written report, his scales dull with exhaustion and shame. "What could possibly be more troubling than what we have already experienced, Officer Vorna?" She manipulated the holographic controls, and a timeline appeared in the air. "I cross-referenced our Imperial archives with the data we gathered on human history. Commander, Earth is not new to extraterrestrial contact. Admiral Chen mentioned an encounter 400 years ago, but it goes back much further than that." The timeline illuminated with red markers, each one representing a point where Krylon records showed unexplained incidents near Earth's region of space. Ships that had vanished without trace, scouting missions that never reported back, expansion efforts that mysteriously stalled near what humans called the Orion arm of their galaxy. 15 times over the past 6 centuries, Krylon vessels or allied species have disappeared near Earth's solar system. Vorna continued, her voice tight with suppressed emotion. "We attributed these losses to natural hazards, navigation errors, or mechanical failures. But, Commander, the pattern is clear. Any ship that approached Earth with hostile intent simply vanished. Zelthax felt a chill run through his body, despite the warm temperature of his quarters. You are suggesting that humans have been defending themselves for 600 years? That they have destroyed 15 military expeditions without anyone in the galactic community becoming aware? Not just defending, Commander, adapting. Vorna highlighted another section of data. Each disappearance occurred with longer intervals between them as time progressed. The last one was 83 years ago. I believe humanity learned to hide more effectively, to appear less threatening, to make potential aggressors dismiss them as unworthy targets. Then why did they allow us to approach? Zelthax asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. To test us, Vorna replied simply. Admiral Chen said they wanted to see our intentions. They let us get close enough to reveal our hostility, close enough to deliver our threats, and then demonstrated that they could have destroyed us at any moment, but chose mercy instead. It was a calculated demonstration of strength through restraint. Zelthax stood and paced his quarters, his tail lashing in agitation. We walked into a trap designed to teach us a lesson without killing us. They made us look foolish to ensure we would remember that foolishness. And to ensure we would report it accurately, Vorna added. If they had simply destroyed our armada, it would have invited retaliation. By humiliating us and letting us live, they guaranteed we would return with a message. Earth is not worth attacking. The holographic display shifted again, showing the detailed schematics of Krylon military technology that Admiral Chen had revealed. I have also analyzed how they could have obtained this classified information. Commander, the security implications are staggering. Either humans have infiltrated our empire at the highest levels, or they possess surveillance technology far beyond our ability to detect. Either possibility suggests we have vastly underestimated them. Or both possibilities are true, Zelthax said quietly. A species paranoid enough to hide their civilization's true capabilities for centuries would certainly invest heavily in intelligence gathering. They probably know more about the Krylon Empire than most of our own citizens. A chime at the door interrupted their conversation. Pilot Krenix entered at Zelthax's permission, looking even younger than usual as he delivered his message. Commander, we will arrive at the homeworld in 3 hours. The Emperor has been informed of our return and requests your immediate presence in the Grand Hall upon landing. Zelthax acknowledged the message with a nod, and Krenix hesitated before speaking again. Sir, if I may say something. Speak freely, pilot. What we encountered at Earth, what humanity showed us, I believe it might be valuable beyond the obvious military lesson. We have spent 3 centuries conquering, but what if there is strength in the approach the humans offered? They extended friendship after we threatened them. They offered trade and cooperation despite our hostility. Perhaps that is a more sustainable path to greatness than endless conquest. Strategic Officer Vorna made a sound of agreement. The young pilot raises a valid point, Commander. The Krylon Empire spans 73 systems, but maintaining control requires constant military presence and suppression of resistance. Earth's approach, creating genuine partnerships rather than forced subjugation, might actually be more efficient in the long term. Zelthax looked at his 2 officers, seeing in them the same doubts and revelations that had plagued him since leaving Earth. Your thoughts are dangerously close to heresy against Imperial doctrine, but they are also logical. However, that is a conversation for the Emperor to have, not us. I will present the facts of our encounter. What the Empire chooses to do with that information is beyond my authority. 3 hours later, Commander Zelthax knelt in the Grand Hall before Emperor Dravok the Conqueror. The massive throne room was filled with military commanders, government officials, and members of the imperial family, all gathered to hear the report of the Earth conquest that was supposed to add glory to the Empire's achievements. Emperor Dravok was ancient by Krylon standards. His scales darkened to near black with age, his eyes sharp with the cunning that had kept him in power for 40 years. He listened in absolute silence as Zelthax delivered his report, describing every detail of the failed conquest without embellishment or excuse. When Zelthax finished, the Grand Hall remained silent for a long moment. Then unexpectedly, Emperor Dravok began to laugh. It was not the cruel mockery that some emperors might have displayed, but genuine, appreciative laughter that confused everyone present. Commander Zelthax, rise, the Emperor commanded, his voice still carrying traces of amusement. You have brought me the first honest military assessment I have received in decades. Most commanders would have fabricated excuses, blamed equipment failures, or claimed the humans had allied with some other advanced species. But you have told me the truth. We were outmaneuvered, outwitted, and shown mercy by a species we dismissed as primitive. Zelthax rose cautiously, unsure whether the Emperor's humor was genuine or a prelude to punishment. Tell me, Commander, do you believe humanity's offer of diplomatic relations was sincere? Yes, Your Majesty, Zelthax replied without hesitation. Admiral Chen demonstrated that they could have destroyed our armada but chose not to. They revealed capabilities to make us cautious but offered friendship to make peace possible. I believe they genuinely prefer cooperation to conflict, though they are clearly prepared for either. Emperor Dravok descended from his throne, approaching Zelthax with surprising agility for his age. The Krylon Empire has conquered 217 worlds through superior military force. It is a source of great pride and greater expense. Maintaining control over so many systems requires enormous resources and constant vigilance against rebellion. He turned to address the assembled court. But what if Commander Zelthax and his crew have discovered something more valuable than another conquered world? What if they have found an example of a different path to power? Murmurs of surprise rippled through the grand hall. The Emperor raised a clawed hand for silence. Humanity has shown us that appearing weak while being strong is a viable strategy. They have demonstrated that mercy can be more intimidating than destruction. They have offered us partnership instead of subjugation. Perhaps it is time for the Krylon Empire to evolve beyond endless conquest. High Chancellor Morvix, the Emperor's chief advisor, stepped forward. Your Majesty, you cannot seriously be considering abandoning our expansion doctrine based on one encounter with these humans? I am not abandoning anything, Chancellor, Emperor Dravok replied sharply. I am adapting, something we Krylon have always prided ourselves on doing. Commander Zelthax, I am assigning you a new mission. You will take a diplomatic envoy to the meeting station that Admiral Chen specified. You will establish formal relations with Earth, and you will learn everything you can about how they have survived and thrived while appearing weak to their enemies. The Emperor returned to his throne, his expression thoughtful. The humans laughed at our threats, Commander. They found us predictable and unoriginal. Perhaps they are correct. Perhaps after 3 centuries of using the same conquest strategy, we have become exactly what they accused us of being, unimaginative. Zelthax felt something unprecedented, hope rising from humiliation. Your Majesty, humanity's Admiral Chen suggested they are quite good at friendship when given the chance. Perhaps we could be as well. Indeed, Emperor Dravok agreed. The Krylon Empire was built on strength, but true strength includes knowing when to fight and when to extend a hand in partnership. You have learned this lesson at Earth, Commander. Now teach it to the rest of our empire. 6 months later, Commander Zelthax stood in the observation lounge of a very different ship, a diplomatic vessel rather than a warship. The meeting station that humanity had constructed orbited a neutral moon, its architecture blending Krylon, human, and several other species' aesthetic preferences. It was a place designed for conversation rather than confrontation, for trade rather than threats. Admiral Sarah Chen greeted him personally when his delegation arrived. She wore civilian clothing rather than her military uniform, and her smile carried genuine warmth. Welcome, Commander Zelthax. We are pleased you accepted our invitation. Admiral Chen, I must confess something, Zelthax said, surprising himself with his honesty. When we first encountered Earth, I believed humanity's laughter was mockery. I was wrong. It was confidence. Confidence that you could defend yourselves if necessary, but also confidence that you could find a better path. Chen's smile widened. And now, Commander? What do you believe now? Now I believe that the galaxy has room for many approaches to greatness. The Krylon Empire has much to learn from humanity, just as perhaps we have knowledge to share with you. My Emperor has authorized me to explore possibilities for partnership, trade agreements, and cultural exchange. Then let us begin, Chen said, gesturing toward the conference facilities. We have much to discuss, you and I. Starting with why hiding one's true strength can sometimes be the wisest strategy, and how laughter can be the best weapon against those who rely too heavily on intimidation. As they walked together through the station, Commander Zelthax reflected on the journey that had brought him here. He had departed Krylon space expecting an easy conquest and returned with humility, wisdom, and the seeds of a transformation that might reshape his entire civilization. Earth had taught him that mercy was strength, that friendship was efficiency, and that sometimes the best way to win a war was to never fight it in the first place. Behind them, Strategic Officer Vorna and Pilot Krenix followed, along with a full diplomatic team ready to forge a new relationship between two very different civilizations. The Krylon had come to Earth seeking to add world number 218 to their empire. Instead, they had found something far more valuable, a mirror showing them who they had become and a window revealing who they might yet be. And somewhere on that distant blue-green planet, billions of humans continued their lives, most never knowing how close they had come to interstellar war, or how their collective laughter had changed the destiny of an empire that had conquered stars for 3 centuries. Earth remained watchful, prepared and hidden behind a carefully maintained facade of primitive innocence, just as it had for 600 years. Just as it would for centuries more to come, ready to laugh at the next threat that mistook humanity for easy prey, and ready to extend friendship to any who chose wisdom over conquest. The galaxy was vast, filled with countless species and infinite possibilities. But on that day, in that neutral station orbiting a dead moon, 2 very different civilizations took their first steps toward understanding. And it had all started with laughter, the uniquely human weapon that had disarmed an empire and opened a door to a future neither side had imagined possible. Comment for next part.